just have a few announcements before our panelists get started. One is this event is being live streamed, so if you could kindly turn off your phones or put them on silent in case you get a call or a text message. And the other big announcement and favor that I'll ask is when we open it up to questions, because it is a live streamed event, we're kindly asking that everyone use a microphone so that our viewers at home can actually listen to the questions being asked. So I'll leave that mic on the stand, and I'll be roaming the aisle on this side. So just raise your hand if you have a question and don't want to get to that mic, and I will get to you to make sure that you have a mic so that you can ask your question. You know, a little awkward in a space this small, but again, it'll help our viewers at home. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Chad.
Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to Bowdoin. I trust that your day has been going well so far? Kinda, yeah. Only one person really good in the back. All right, welcome. My name is Chad Coates, and I'm the Associate Dean of Students and Dean of First-Year Students. And in my role, I do all things first year. A big part of what I am responsible for is creating and improving the first year experience, which starts with the letters you receive and your transition on campus during our orientation program in the summer and on throughout the fall and spring semester transitions. We have a number of panelists here today to provide some information for you. And what I want to stress is that this is your time. Half of this time that we spend together would be dedicated to your questions. So I encourage you to make sure that you are asking the questions that are lingering in the back of your minds as you're here, as you're seeing campus today. And we'll try as best as we can to answer those. So I'm going to start by asking our two student panelists to kick us off with introduction, and each member of our panel will introduce themselves and their departments and programs that they're responsible for. Go ahead, Olivia.
Hi, I'm Olivia Ware. I am a junior at Bowdoin, and I am from just outside of Boston.
Hi, I'm Jacob Kasama. I'm a first year, and I'm from Alabama.
Good afternoon. My name is Eduardo Pasos. I am the Director of Religious and Spiritual Life, and I'm also a member of the Diversity and Inclusion team in Student Affairs.
Hi, welcome, and congratulations, first of all, for getting in. My name is Mike Rainin. I'm the Associate Dean of Student Affairs and Director of Residential and Student Life. I have oversight of the Res Life Office, our housing operations, our student activities, and the McKean Center for Common Good, which is our volunteer program.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Rendell. I'm the Assistant Dean of First Year Students, and I work closely with Chad Coates supporting incoming first years and their transition to Bowdoin over the arc of their first year, and I am also charged with running a seamless and very fun orientation program.
Welcome to our panelists. Thank you all. We want to get this kicked off by asking the question I hear from almost all the visitors that I've interacted with over the last couple of days. What are some of the support services that are provided for Bowdoin students, and particularly our first years?
Well, I can talk about the residential life. So I am on Res Life. I'm a first year proctor, and the way it works is every floor has a student, an upperclassman student who lives on the floor with the first year, so that's the proctor, and then an affiliated RA who lives in an upperclassman building but also works with that proctor to create events, to help the students with their transition. And basically, Res Life is a great opportunity for students to ask upperclassmen questions and to kind of create a great relationship with these upperclassmen. And Res Life can also give advice and resources. So like we have the counseling center if that's something that may be of interest or of need. And then we can also point you in the direction of the health center, which we also have, and is great for all of our students, and people are really open about their experiences in both places.
Academic-wise, also, there's the Center for Learning and Teaching, which offers tutoring programs for first years or any upperclassmen in almost all the subjects here at Bowdoin, as well as the writing project, where if you need someone to look over your essay or any writing assignment, you go to them and they'll have trained specialists that will go through your essays or writing projects and give you feedback and any comments that you need.
And from the student affairs, student life side, we actually have 3 centers on campus that are entirely dedicated to the diversity and inclusion piece of our college life. You can see them on College Street. You might have seen a couple of them today if you took a tour of the campus. Close to admissions, we have the Russ Warm African American Center. And Russ Warm African American Center works closely with Benjamin Harris, who is the director of the Student Center for Multicultural Life. So that's one of the centers that's available for students. And then if you keep on walking down, there's 24 College. SWAG is housed in 24 College, and that's Sexuality, Women, and Gender Center. So we have a director and an associate director that work closely with students. And then you keep on walking down, and there's 30 College, and 30 College houses both the Multicultural Center and the Center for Religious and Spiritual Life. So there is a prayer room there. We do have a kosher and halal kitchen in there as well. We have general kitchen facilities, and all of those spaces have a study area, work area, and just different kind of multi-purpose rooms that you can use there, reserved for any kind of functions or clubs or student activities.
If I can just build quickly on something that Olivia said. Olivia, you described our program greatly. I think one of the things that you're going to find is that there are a ton of resources, and at times it actually can be overwhelming, the number of resources or where to start, it's a good thing. We have so many resources. So I think, you have your Res Life team, you have your first year dean team as people to help navigate through, because we've all been trained in how to use the resources, who, say, the director of counseling is, so we have those personal relationships. So our student Res Life staff or members of the Dean of Students office can help guide students to the appropriate resource based on what they need, which is really important to help navigate the system.
Another small program that first years will participate in during orientation, if you choose to make Bowdoin your home, is connecting with a first year librarian. And so recognizing that we do not want to just throw first years into their college experience and see who can sink or swim, but actually saying, yep, yeah, totally, that's like the biggest research paper you've ever had to write. And we don't necessarily assume that you know how to approach it and frame it out. And so in their orientation, it's built into them actually connecting with a librarian whose sole purpose is to help them figure out how to navigate citations and how to navigate faculty asking for 3 different citations. And I think that really just making that initial connection is really important for how we see framing out the first year experience and making sure people know, I think Mike spoke to this, that we have so many resources, but how we can feed it and so they're accessible resources.
Okay, thank you. And talking about orientation, the next question goes to our panelists. How do we support students when they arrive, starting with orientation, to navigate the social scene, to navigate the space, to navigate situations and challenges during that first week and that transition into the first semester? What does that look like? Let's start with Stephanie and orientation.
So what it looks like is all first years sign up for an orientation trip. And these are many different experiences, so not just maybe when you think of hiking up a mountain. Yes, you may do that, it's really fun, but also through our McKean Center, which focuses on community engagement. So one orientation trip went to Portland, which is a local city, and worked in I believe it was their soup kitchen, but also framing out how community engagement might look in Maine for people who are service-oriented and hope to pursue that in their college. And how we conceive of that is those small groups outside of the Bowdoin campus actually really reinforces a sense of community and belonging. And how we think of it is gives students a small group, a safe group to then kind of dive into the busyness of orientation. And so we try to get them already connected with a upper class mentor who is their trip leader, and then a small group of friends where they were able to just navigate newness together.
So, hi. I'll also be serving as an orientation intern Stephanie is my boss. And so also within orientation, there will be other programmings that will help first years navigate their academic as well as their social life. There'll be also room for discussions about race, sexuality, and gender within orientation to help equip first years with the knowledge on how to navigate sort of the social scene here at Bowdoin.
Yeah, and going off that, usually right after those events, you'll have a debrief with your floor and your proctor and RA, and I think that's a great time to kind of like, again, ask those upperclassmen, like, well, what's the weekend scene like? What else can I do, say if I don't want to necessarily go out, I want to like stay in, and you kind of get that option to kind of get what the social scene is, and all the different, the variety that Bowdoin offers during the week, on the weekends, depending on what your interests are.
Could we speak a little bit to some of the programming that happens in orientation? What are some of the programs? What do they look like? And maybe if you could give us some highlights on objectives of those programming.
Thinking perspectives more than meets the eye. Yeah, you take it.
Okay, so one of the programs that we do have during orientation week is called Perspectives, and then we have another program called More Than Meets the Eye. Both of these programs are really meant to kind of help us understand what does it mean to be at Bowdoin and what does it mean to be in a diverse and inclusive community. This might be one of the most diverse places that some people have lived in, and for a lot of people they might feel a little bit more comfortable with that, so we kind of explore specifically what does inclusion look like, what does it mean for me to feel entirely welcome when I come to live at Bowdoin. So you'll see a little bit of both through More Than Meets the Eye and through Perspectives.
Yeah, and then I'll highlight two other programs that kind of starts gearing students towards what, navigating the social scene on a college campus. So we bring in a national expert on alcohol and other drugs, Jason Kilmer, who's just fantastic. And he starts, talking with the students about how to be safe and how to be healthy and how to make smart choices, which I think is really important for students who are about to start navigating the social scene in college, getting that background of how to make healthy and safe choices. And then another activity they have was started by Bowdoin students years ago, but is now kind of a national nonprofit group called Speak About It, which is through a theater and skit starting to talk about healthy relationships, started talking about consent, started talking about active bystander training. So again, as students begin navigating the social scene in college, they have some things in their tool chest of how to make sure that they and their friends are as safe as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you. One of the things that most students going off to college are kind of worried about is that whole roommate thing. For more and more students entering college, this is the first time they might be away from home, and also the first time they might be rooming with someone that's not family. How does that process happen, and what does that look like for students?
Sure, I can start, and then maybe I'll pass it to Olivia, who's on the ground with the students. So one thing that is unique to Bowdoin, which is students in their first year are not allowed to choose their roommates. And I know this is many college, in a previous life I taught high school, and I remember when my seniors were going off to college, they would go and try to find somebody on Facebook or who looked like them and ask them to be their roommates. And that was safe. And I think one of the things that we care about is, like Eduardo said, we are such a diverse community, and we really want students, especially in the residential environment, to live together and learn from each other. We don't want to make students uncomfortable. We want to make sure students are comfortable in their rooms, but we also do want to give them access to as many different opinions, people, viewpoints as possible. So we have our students fill out a pretty extensive survey over the summer, kind of their likes, their dislikes, their cleanliness, and which is, please be honest, when you fill out your cleanliness, it's very helpful. And then what we do is we have our student interns, and then we oversee it. We make rooming groups. Again, making sure that there are threads in common, that they will be compatible roommates, but yet they'll also learn from each other. And then, so most of the first years all live together. mostly along the main quad and what we call the bricks. And they're mostly suite style housing, so they'll have 2 bedrooms and a common room for 4 students, and then they're on a floor of about 16 to 20 other students in their floor. And what we try to do is we really try to make each floor a microcosm of Bowdoin, where again you're going to experience new different people in your suite, and then you'll experience even more difference on your floor, again to help learn from each other and live together in a way that will really add to what they're learning in the classroom.
Yeah, and going off that, I think it is important to kind of go in with the mindset that like you're not necessarily going to meet your best friend. Bowdoin does a really good job with the pairing, and I know on my floor personally, they're so close and they love each other. But there are going to be cases where like people might not click 100%, and that's okay too. Like you will meet people like outside of your floor, but I think overall Bowdoin does a great job of their pairing. Kind of going off the floor role, I think too, as Res Life staff, we try to incorporate programs and events for our floors and as a dorm as a whole. So I know like my floor, we went apple picking in the fall and went swimming in the bioluminescence, went to the county fair, just like some but like floor bonding to get everyone, working together and comfortable with each other. Because that's at the end of the day, you want to feel safe and comfortable with the people you're living with, because this is like a commitment all year. So that's a really big piece to us as Res Life staff, is we want to make sure that the students feel safe and comfortable, but also are having a great time with each other and are getting the most out of Maine and out of Bowdoin.
Yeah. And one small thing I forgot to add is that we do have a substance-free option for students who choose to live in a substance-free environment. There are substance-free floors scattered throughout most of the dorms.
Thank you. One of the things that is really important at a small liberal arts residential college like Bowdoin is interaction between faculty, deans, and academic resources. So I'm going to direct this one to our 2 students. What are some of the ways in which you have made connections with your faculty, either in your courses that you've taken or outside of them, and how do you utilize your dean? That's a different thing from high school for most folks.
First off, for professors, office hours, huge. A lot of professors actually encourage students, even if like you're not struggling in the class, to just come in, talk to them, meet them, make that relationship, because I think it is so important to really get to know your professor on like a deeper level than just like your teacher. So a lot of professors will have office hours throughout the week at all different times, so that you'll find a time to fit into your schedule. Some even offer like their home to students and will have classes over for dinner, which is awesome, and you can have like a full class discussion literally over a home cooked meal. As well as you can just email a professor usually and just schedule a time if one of their office hours isn't available for your schedule, which is super, super great, super flexible. And like I said, they encourage that. They want you to have that connection and relationship.
I do have to say office hours are very useful, and I cannot stress enough how students should go to the professor's office hours once they get here. And just my experiences with my professor, especially, like I can go into an office hour and I could initially go there about a question on a paper, and then half an hour later I could be talking about Star Trek with my anthro professor. Like, you can literally talk to them about anything, and they'll be more than happy to talk with you. And then, especially with your science professors here, if any students here are interested in research, just go to any professor and during their office hours and just ask about what they're researching, and then tell them what you're interested in studying, and then through those connections they can offer you a place in their lab, or they can refer you to another faculty member who has openings in their labs for you to work at. And I know for the deans, I was like, what's a dean? Like, what are they there for? And I just realized at my time here that the deans are there to kind of support all students. And I know I go to Dean Coates all the time, and I'm like, Dean Coates, like, I have a question about this or this. I just had lunch with him this week? Yeah, this week. And just had a conversation about my time here at Bowdoin and what I want to get from my experience here, as well as what I want to do outside of Bowdoin.
Yeah, going off that, the deans are also a great resource. If you do have any questions, or if, say, you should get into some sort of like academic trouble, or something happens on the weekend that you're not sure about, talk to your deans. Like, they're there to help you and to support you, and have great conversations with as well. But yeah, no, I know my freshman year, my dean reached out to me and was like, let's have just like a check-in chat. And we ended up like an hour later just talking about life and just my back home. And like, she was a Bowdoin grad and was talking to me about her experience at Bowdoin, like, I don't know how many years ago. So it's just like a great relationship and connection, because they'll be with you pretty much your whole Bowdoin career. So a great person to have in your back pocket.
This is true. Not that I'm a dean or anything. It's true. So to that point, I'd like to invite Stephanie. Could you say a little bit more about how we as a first-year dean team work with first-year students, and the work we do outside of what students might see?
Oh my gosh. It's so all-encompassing. What do students not see? I think so I could get an email on any day of the week, and I'll use an example, is that a roommate is really concerned about the roommate, so they emailed Dean Coates or I to say, hey, like, I have nothing like really concrete to report, but something seems off and I'm just really nervous. And we create our schedules so we can kind of do a little gentle reach out and call in that student into our office and just kind of like, hey, what's up? Like, something's happening. And I think behind the scenes, we're always paying attention to student welfare, health and wholeness, and that can look like a lot of different things for every single student. But our concern is that each student can arrive here and feel like they're safe, feel like they have the space to be really curious and excited about what they're learning. And then everything out of that, Dean Coates and I work really hard so students learn to navigate the resources that they might need for the first time, and also to feel empowered and in charge of their learning. And it's a really fun process to see over the arc of the year. I think, Dean Coates, do you want to speak more specifically about stuff that we do?
The faculty pairing, so all our students here, when they enter, are assigned to a faculty advisor. And a part of what the first-year dean does is to work with a faculty member in doing those assignments. So that's another way in which we support students. So we often try to do this 360 wraparound by connecting to resources on campus and then zeroing in on how best to help individual students, because that does look different for each student, even when the issues are the same. All right. With that, I am going to turn over to members of our audience for questions. Questions? Yeah.
Hi, I just had a question about the spiritual life.
Yeah.
And are there Christian groups on campus? Do most of the students go to off-campus, let's say in particular Christian groups, but other religions also?
Sure. Yeah, we have two groups on campus. We have the Catholic Student Union and we have the Christian Student Association. Both groups work closely with students amongst their groups to get rights and people to church. My office and the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, we rent out 2 or 3 vans a week for students to take their friends and classmates and whatever to different churches. So in total, we have about, I would say, anywhere from 5 to 10 different vehicles going to different kinds of churches in the area. So students are able to be in touch with the community. I work very closely with the main clergy in the area to make sure that if a student comes in and says, hey, I come from this tradition, or I'm looking for this kind of a spiritual home, is there anything like that? I try to connect them with them, and I'm a member of the main Mid-Coast Interfaith Council as well.
Great, thank you.
Other questions?
You don't have to get up. You can have the microphone brought to you.
Hi. So I had a question about the roommates. So since you guys said that you have to fill out a questionnaire and you get matched, so what if like you don't like your roommates? Can you like fill out a paper to request change for that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think it's important to, I think part of living independently and part of the whole growth mindset that we have in college is, yes, like I said, you may not be best friends, and that's one thing, or there may be an issue, and that's a different thing. So we do have a process. I think a lot of the process first involves conversation. You know, sometimes what we often see is that people have an issue with each other, but they haven't actually talked about it. And talking is difficult, and we fully understand that. So we have ways to maybe the proctor would have a facilitated conversation first between the roommates, and then to see if there's anything that can be worked out. You know, oftentimes it's misunderstanding, and then having a conversation will help that. And usually the barrier is people are scared to have that first conversation. But at times, you know, that it's just really there is a true issue, and then we will work to relocate somebody if necessary. We don't want to do it without having a small process, having a conversation, because we do feel that is a really important part of the growth process. But we're also understanding that at the end of the day, we want our students to feel comfortable in their rooms. And if for whatever reason it's not working, we'll move. Yeah. Doesn't happen often, but it does happen.
When we visited over the summer, there was some discussion about the community host family program, and I was just wondering if you would speak about that and how many first-year students participate.
Excellent question. I actually don't know the number, Dean Coates. Do you have?
I think this year it's probably roughly 60, sounds right.
Yep. Around 60 are participating, and for folks who choose to make Bowdoin their home, you're going to have an opportunity to fill out a community host program application on Blackboard, which is the online portal, and then submit it, and then get paired with a community in the area, a family in the area who can do a range of things. I know many students spend Thanksgiving and holidays with their host family. Sometimes host families volunteer to store luggage. These develop into really personal relationships for whatever the student wants or feels comfortable with. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have a community host, and basically, I kind of feel like they're there to support me and my time here at Bowdoin, just kind of knowing that there's someone here locally who I can come and talk to if I have any problems, as well as sharing news, any kind of news, good or bad. And we try to meet every other week, and we'll usually grab coffee together or tea, take walks around campus or town, and then I also spent Thanksgiving with his family, and just a number of other activities. He'll just be like, there's a concert going on campus, I'm gonna go, like, would you like to come with me? And I'll be like, yeah, sure. And just kind of, they're there to support you, and when you first meet, you kind of like discuss about like what you want from that relationship, and how much you want to meet, or like they understand if a student's busy, and they'll work around your schedule as well as their schedule, and yeah.
Question in the back? Question.
Hi, students. I was wondering if you could describe your most fun moment here at Bowdoin outside of the classroom.
Well, I am a member of the women's basketball team here, and and so Bowdoin is a great athletic school. We are a very rigorous and accomplished school, and so one of my biggest moments was actually we went all the way to the national championship this year and last year, and that was just the support that we got from the community at Bowdoin, but also the Brunswick community. We have super fans who are basically, they're the best fans, and a lot of them are actually host families, and they come, and we have fans like an hour before our game coming to get tickets. And I have friends and professors who have reached out to me who like aren't even into sports, and they'll be like, good luck, and we watched your game. And so just like going to the championship and knowing that we had all these people supporting us was just the most incredible feeling. And coming back to a school where people recognized that and would say something and reach out, even if I didn't know who they were, since it's just such a tight-knit community, was something that a lot of schools don't have, that I value a lot.
Last semester, I was able to participate in a retreat that was kind of sponsored by the school, and we just kind of went out into the woods near this camp near a lake, and we just were able to have a group discussion about how our semester was going, what we thought about the school, and just reflecting back on that semester, and as well as doing other fun activities such as kayaking, and there was this swing that launched you from the trees, like just very fun.
I know you don't have sororities and fraternities, and I was curious sort of that how social life was organized and sort of what that looked like for different people on campus.
Yeah. So I can kind of talk about, so we have the college house system. So Bowdoin way back when used to have fraternities, and then they turned the fraternities into college houses. So now it's predominantly sophomore living. We have one all senior house, and it's basically you have to apply to get in. You can either go as like a single or with a block of your friends. And you basically have to present an event that you would, or a program idea that you would want to have the house do, because the houses not only are a place for first years to meet sophomores, because you're affiliated with a house, every first year floor is affiliated with a different college house, but it's also a place where they'll have speakers, they'll host programs, and on the weekends, that's a big, big spot where students, to stay on campus, will go to college houses. They'll host like parties and whatnot. And so some of the college houses are actually on campus, and then some of them are like across Main Street. You'll see them, they're the big, beautiful houses. So yeah, so that's a big part of, I would say, the social life, and providing students with a place to create programs of their choice and reach out to the Bowdoin community and keep everyone kind of like on campus and very central.
Yeah, if I can add to that quickly as well, I'm not sure if you notice actually right by the admissions office is big new buildings going up. We're in the process of building 2 new upper class housing complexes, we're hoping mainly for juniors and seniors, because they're going to be really nice. Full-size beds in every room, all singles, with kitchens, living rooms, and then common spaces in both, either a large basement or common spaces in the lobby. So we're also hoping that with this new construction, that should be, the first building will be opening up in the fall, and then the next complex will be opening up the year after that. So by the time you were here and as seniors, it will be all open. We're also hoping that's going to do a lot to bring social life on campus. We still have about 125 students, or about a quarter of the senior class living off campus, and there's still some social life off campus. But then, different student groups, student government, the e-board, even the College Street. There's a lot of different social options depending on what you want to make of your social scene on any given night. So there's lots of options, and I think with the creation of the new dorms and how nice they're going to be, it's going to be bringing some of that back to those spaces as well.
This is kind of piggybacking off of your question. How do you choose the house for each student to be affiliated with?
Yeah, so we actually just finished the process. Students can, so we're opening up a new college house next year as well. So there will be 9 college houses. Because people, for the most part, only live in them for 1 year, there are some traditions between each houses, and there are some reputations for houses. But for the most part, you have new people in every year. So when people apply for a college house, they rank what their preferences are. There is one house that is substance-free, that only does substance-free programming, Howell House. And then, so basically, you kind of say which houses you want to be, then the committee that builds college houses will kind of look at to make sure that, again, each house matches the diversity of the student body in the applicant pool. And also, Olivia mentioned as well a little bit about the connection between first-year students and college houses. Each first-year floor is affiliated with a college house, so they welcome, the houses will welcome the first years in for different events, special programming just for the first year. It's kind of more of a mentoring system as well. But again, you don't necessarily have to live in the same house that you were affiliated with. Just it depends on various factors. But you don't apply for a specific house. You give your preferences, and then the college house selection committee will build them based on various needs.
And I'll just add, from talking to the students about how they choose their houses, each house is different because there were actually like big houses, individual different houses at one point. So they have different sizes kitchens and living rooms and different size rooms. And sometimes students just prefer one over the other one because it might be closer to where they take most of their classes. Maybe they have a bigger backyard, or they have bigger bedrooms. Like, it's like little things like that also that could also be part of the preference.
I noticed a flyer describing peer-led yoga and meditation classes, and I was curious if you could talk about the health and wellness community and what's available to students, and if it's peer-run or and so forth.
So we have, you can jump in as well, but we have several things going on. We do have peer-led meditation and yoga classes, and those are available for students, but then also we do offer other classes. We have a office for student wellness, and they do provide, they do bring professionals that actually lead mindfulness classes, meditation classes, and yoga classes as well. Every Wednesday at 24 College, we have Wellness Wednesday, and we bring in acupuncture practitioners, acupuncturists, and they're there every Wednesday as well. When it comes to maybe like the high stress time, we sometimes bring a massage therapist to campus, or we'll bring puppies to campus to kind of de-stress students. But we do try to approach wellness and just welfare of students in a very holistic way. So we work counseling center, rest life, spiritual life, the dean's office, dining works with us. We want to make sure that they have very different ways to kind of have different options.
I would say, kind of going off the dog thing, so the library during finals week and midterms week will actually bring in a ton of service dogs into the library for students to kind of like take a break and play with, and they'll have snacks and food and coffee, just kind of a place to kind of like decompress and de-stress from your finals studying, which has been super beneficial for a lot of students.
Yeah, and I'd also like to plug intramural sports as well in club sports. Like Olivia said, you know, we have a ton of varsity athlete teams that are very successful, but we also have club sports. We have intramural sports. I think we approach wellness through a variety of ways, some programmatically led by staff, but tons that are student initiated. So much student initiation, actually, which is one makes our lives a lot easier.
Including a ping pong tournament that I think is taking place right now, initiated by the first year class council. So, for what that's worth. Yeah.
What are like the safety initiatives on campus for like when it gets dark so early and walking alone? That's explanation question. And then quick question, are student activities like school productions and sporting events free, or do we pay for those?
You guys want to take those?
I can talk about the school productions and sporting events. So most of the sporting events are free until a team gets to the NCAA tournament, and then you do have to pay for tickets. But for the most part, everything's free. Productions, so depending on the show, most are free, and you still have to just get a ticket from the information desk. And a couple of them you do have to pay. They're like $5 for a ticket, depending on the performance.
And then Also, there are a bunch of performance groups on campuses. So there's the orchestra, concert band, as well as smaller ensembles. And usually the college owns like a bunch of instruments. I know for me, I was fortunate enough to borrow an instrument from the school, and they basically had all the supplies, and concerts were, for the most part, concerts here are free too. They'll also bring in professional musicians to play concerts here, and those concerts are also free.
In terms of your question about safety, that's an excellent question. I would say that Bowdoin's safety and security is one of probably the most hands-on safety and security offices in a good way. I think their mission is to kind of protect and help students. There's a shuttle that can take you depending on where you're going on campus. There's a shuttle that makes routine routes. You can call anytime. I suppose security has a very strong presence on campus in a way that is not antagonistic, but in a way to help our students. All first-year students will meet with the director of safety and security. He'll come to all the dorms and kind of talk about best practices for safety and security, and also talk about all the resources. But yeah, it's a very hands-on security, and there are lots of options to make sure that in the evening that our students feel safe and have various options.
And I'll say, most of us live here in Brunswick. Brunswick is a small town. It's a really safe town, and it's a great place to live in.
Yeah.
Students, for the most part, feel pretty safe. It's a relatively small campus, maybe compared to like big universities. So it's very rare that you'll actually find yourself just walking alone. There is plenty of lights and trails and all of that's marketed. And for the most part, you'll see other students walking around, and you'll have those blue lights where you know that you can call in if you need any kind of emergency assistance.
Other questions you might have from the audience?
So this question is for Jacob and Olivia, and it's two. So the first one is, can you describe your experience at Bowdoin so far in one word? And the second one is, why did you choose to come to a school that has liberal arts education?
I know for me, I wanted, after touring my state school, I realized that I wanted a smaller campus, a place where there's a strong sense of community within the students. And I found that here at Bowdoin, and I'm interested in the sciences, but I also wanted overview of the humanities. I also wanted to study history, some religion, as well as anthropology, sociology. And Bowdoin, because of its curriculum, allows you to do all of that. Not only does it lets me focus on science, but it also lets me explore its curriculum as well as different subject areas.
My one word would be versatile, just because I've been able to do so much at Bowdoin. Everything that I've wanted to do, I've been able to do without feeling that one aspect of my life is overpowering another. I have my social life, I have my sports, I do a cappella as well, so I have my musical side, and then I still have time for my academics, which is honestly the number one priority. That's why I'm here. I think too, like why I chose the liberal arts is I really came in not knowing what I wanted to do. At first I was like, actually, maybe I'll do neuroscience. And I was like, I'm not gonna do that. And then I was like, oh, maybe I'll not do sciencey stuff and I'll do English stuff. And I was like, I'm not gonna do that. And now I'm actually environmental studies and government and legal studies coordinate major. And I wanted to go somewhere where I could try a lot of different things. And I had friends who went to like business school and went to, technology schools. And I was like, I wanted to have that, that range of being able to go in my first year and do an intro class that I'd never heard of before and really figure out what I liked, what I didn't like. Because I think, finding out what you don't like is just as important as finding out what you like. And liberal arts lets you do that and hopefully come out with an idea of what you love, and then will lead you on the path towards, bigger, better things.
And your one word, Jacob?
Oh, yeah. I would have to say exhilarating. Just like the moment I got onto campus, I was like, oh my gosh, like it's happening. And then even now, I'm still like, oh my gosh, like college, I'm loving it. College, like just my experiences has always been kind of exhilarating for me. Just kind of, I'm a very, if you haven't realized by now, but like I'm a very sociable person. So like I always like to have a lot of energy whenever I'm out and about at Bowdoin.
Can I jump in? Just on what Olivia was saying about engaging in the life of the college. So our philosophy around kind of messaging to first years, our expectations around engaging with the life of the college, especially the first years who ask, but can I take 5 classes and 2 of them be labs? You can, yes. And again, these are, if you're making Bowdoin your home, you're clearly very intelligent. But our question is, what else are you going to do? How are you going to engage with the life of the college? Maybe you never sang in high school, but would you want to explore a cappella here? It is definitely not, our philosophy is what else do you want to do? Clearly you're here to engage at academics. We encourage you to go deeper as opposed to wider. But there's a lot of other stuff going on, and we really encourage first years to make time to explore. So I just wanted to share.
Other questions we might have from the audience? So I have one question for the panel. What sets Bowdoin apart? That's a question that I've heard many times this week in many different ways. But for you, as you think of your own Bowdoin experiences for students and for our staff on the panel, what sets Bowdoin apart in your mind and your experience?
I'd have to say the community here and just the people who go here. What I wanted from my school was a strong sense of community within the college, and here people are very collaborative. I wouldn't say that there would be such a strong sense of competition within the student body, because here there's ample resources for almost all the students, and people here aren't competing for those resources. So what I found here is that students work collaboratively with each other, and just like in my math course, like if I don't get a problem or something, I'll be able to like turn to my neighbor and be like, hey, do you understand this question? And they'll be more than willing to help me go through that question. And the faculty here also realize that collaboration is a very strong skill, and they have a lot of assignments that are collaborative and just kind of help students like build that strong sense of community with each other.
Yeah, so I was going to say the people too, and not just the people here, but the people who have been here before us. So we have a super strong alumni network. I know one of the resources we forgot to mention was the Career Planning Center. Does a great job of connecting students with alumni who are in their similar field of interest. And it's just amazing seeing the pride that people have who graduate from Bowdoin, and they'll come back year after year and they want to help students because, you know, they're just so proud of what Bowdoin has provided them, and they want to give back. And I think it's so evident in the people that you talk to who are graduates of Bowdoin, the people that you talk to here who are like currently here, how much they love being here and how passionate they are about what Bowdoin has provided them with. And I think our alumni network is unlike a lot of other schools. There are so many ways to connect. Like I literally just the other day reached out to a random alumni, and he immediately got back to me, and it was in a field that I had never even thought about before. And he was like, I love when Bowdoin students reach out because I am so eager to help them in any way that I can. And like he took time out of his day to set aside to talk to me. And I think that speaks volumes. And like we have a reunion weekend where literally alumni come back every year, and you can just tell that they just love it and they want to give back to the Bowdoin community, and I think that's so special. Like the Bowdoin, like Jacob was saying, the Bowdoin community is special, and it's so cliche when people are like, the people, but it's genuine. Like people are just so nice. It's kind of freaky in a way. They're here. They want to help you, and they want you to succeed. And like you said, no one's going to steal your textbook or like not tell you an answer, because we're all in this together. And I think Bowdoin understands that.
Are we doing that one too?
Yep.
Yep.
I think maybe the one thing that I would say is we just have amazingly brilliant students and amazingly brilliant colleagues, staff, and faculty. Every day, I'm just amazed at how much I learn. I think one of the reasons why I work in higher education is because I love education, I love learning, and my students teach me so much. The students that we have here are just incredibly bright and resilient and creative, and they just work really hard. And our staff and faculty are just the same way, and it's just such an honor to work here with them.
Yeah, I would say this is how well-rounded, accomplished, and humble our students are. You know, I remember there was one day where I was, well, actually one of your teammates, Olivia, who's also on our head Res Life staff, she was in my office and we were kind of going back and forth about a difficult situation on her floor. And then that night, I went to the game and watched her score a whole bunch of points. And then we have another student on our staff who, you know, I see her as such an amazing Res Lifer, and then she gets a giant fellowship for next year because she's so accomplished in the classroom as well. But yet the running theme of it is how humble they all are about it, not competitive, you know, not bragging, and yet still so accomplished. It kind of blows me away.
I think and maybe this isn't in our promotional literature, but words like kindness and empathy, I mean, this I think is woven deeply into the fabric of this community, and not something we maybe display on our homepage, but I really think that's, I mean, the common thread throughout orientation is how we're all in this together, and that we should lean on each other when we need it, and how to be genuine and honest, and how that can also be scary, but that we've got you. And I think that's what really sets Bowdoin apart, is that those are our values, and they're true values. Yeah.
And my final question to our panel is, what would you say is one of the, or has been one of the main highlights for you this year?
Who's starting? I'm not ready.
I would say my highlight so far this year was the people I met here at Bowdoin. My friends, they're so genuine, and I love every moment I spend with them, and I feel that I can always lean on them, and they'll always have my back as well as I'll have theirs, and just kind of the friends that you make here will be long-lasting and very significant at your time at this school.
I guess since I kind of answered it a little earlier, I'll do a different one. Was probably move-in day, honestly. This year, it was my first time moving in first years. And it was just so fun working with like my fellow like Res Life staff, and like getting to see like the excitement in the incoming first years faces and their families, like a little bit of nerves because, you know, they're sending their kids off and like who knows when you'll see them again, and you're sending off to this journey of college. But then also just, you know, feeling that excitement of like this new adventure for them, and kind of reliving it myself because I loved moving day. I was so excited. So that was a huge moment for me, just being able to be that person to help and provide like confidence in families that like this is a great place and your kids are going to be safe and okay.
For me, when I first started, I had this idea that I wanted to create this multi-faith fellowship to encourage interfaith dialogue on campus. And this year was the year that we were able to actually get that started. We had a ton of students apply for the fellowship. We were able to select 4 students. We spent all last semester reading, talking, discussing, learning the the world's religions, major sacred texts. And then this semester, the fellows organized community engagement events. And to see them so excited about their events, the community came out, their students, their colleagues came out, and we had a lot of people. We had like a pizza party and a conversation around Islam and modesty and women. We had a conversation on Buddhism and meditation and cultural appropriation. And then we had a conversation on an interfaith conversation with Maine clergy. We had a lot of students come out, and to see the fellows themselves really excited to take a part of this and to be leaders on campus on these conversations, that was probably the highlight of my year.
Yeah, one amazing program that Bowdoin has is called Alternative Spring Break. When we send out about 7 trips, about, I don't know, somewhere between 8 to 10 students per trip who go out and do service for a week around the country and also internationally. We had a group go to Guatemala this year. And last week they did a kind of reflection group, one called Perspectives, where everybody kind of gathered together like a week or 2 later from the trip, and different people kind of talked and reflected about how much the trip meant to them. And for the most part, it was people saying how, the team bonding, but also being out in the community, how kind of amazing that felt. And then, one student who was so brave to talk about how, yes, it was a great experience, but it also made her think about, what is the role of people just coming into a community for a week and then leaving. And the fact that she was able to have the courage and felt comfortable to challenge why we do service at an event, celebrated service, kind of summed up how amazing Bowdoin students are to me.
I'm going to give you a snapshot of orientation. We take a class photo, and so we have to corral 500 first years onto the steps of the museum. And I remember sitting back, because I do sit back through orientation. I really empower my orientation interns to really own orientation. And so I remember seeing Jillian at the time with a bullhorn, and I think Jacob and Lynn just discovered the bullhorn this afternoon. You will be using it. Corralling like really rambunctious, 500 really rambunctious first years who I think hadn't all been together, returned from their orientation trips for 48 hours. And they were so chatty and talking, and I just remember thinking, this is amazing, because they're connections. I love the sound of that noise when people are just chatting and catching up and asking how their trips were. And then a sophomore, an orientation intern with a bullhorn, making sure every floor was there. That was that very memorable moment from this past year.
Okay, and with that, I want to thank our panelists for meeting and speaking with us today, and to thank you all for visiting campus today. And we're going to be hanging around for a bit for those of you who might have additional questions. Enjoy your day, and do enjoy the rest of your time here at Bowdoin and in Brunswick. Thank you.